Hi creators, it's Claire from Springworth and today is a crumbs challenge. So I'm going to attempt to take these trimmings and offcuts and turn them into something. Now I saw this idea on Stitch with Rachel. Now it was a while ago I watched it, so if I get any of this wrong that's on me, not on Rachel. But I'm going to take some tulle. I have this lovely pink, but I think when I've filled this, you're not actually even going to tell it's pink. And then I'm going to create like a pocket, and I'm going to fill the pocket with crumbs. Now, if you're looking at this and going, Claire, those don't look like enough crumbs, do not worry. I have a whole bag full. So I'm going to see what this goes like. But essentially, I'm going to make that pocket with this. I would like it to sit underneath the sewing machines. That again, Stitch with Rachel did that. It's currently a little bit too big. I gave myself some wiggle room. I potentially could make like a side piece if I like it that much. I am going to put some kind of stabilizing binding edge around it. I'm actually not going to stabilize the main piece. I'm going to just jam it full of scraps. I'm still kind of playing with whether I cut the scraps up smaller and make like tiny crumbs, or if I can get away with some of the crumbs I have. So like I've got some strips. Probably gonna need to cut that, but do I need to cut this? That is what I'm gonna find out, because why not? Oh God, I like this whole thing. So as with many of the projects, I've got a half-baked idea. Let's get into it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of have a go through this and see what's in here. Actually, this is like at its capacity. So rather than emptying it, I'm going to start in here, and rather than getting into the bag. I don't mind if there are, what do you call that? Bits of thread. It's a scrappy thing. So I've got some, I probably should rewatch the video. Let's go through this. Start disconnecting some of these crumbs. And think about how I'm going to do the edge. I think I might be better off creating the pocket so I can progressively stuff said pocket. Much as I want to get into all of this, I think this is going to make a mess that I don't need to make on the tulle. So I'm just going to sew these two pieces together in this kind of rectangle. So I managed to be just off camera when I was filming that, but I've just put a straight stitch, default length, default tension, all the way along two sides, and I kept the long side open because it is quite a long pocket, and I thought having to stuff it down was going to be harder than stuffing it across. So now I can make a big mess with the crumbs. So I think I'm just going to make a bag, fill it, maybe give it a massage and see. So like I've got no expectations for this. I'm just going to shove heaps in there and then see if I want to, you know, make placement choices, turn fabric over, or if I think I will need to reduce the size. For whatever reason, the tape just doesn't appeal to me, so I'm going to cut that off and I will come back to you once I have this pretty stuffed, ready to see if I need to take it all back out and chop it into smaller pieces. Okay, I've taken out a few things, like really long strips. I've taken out some wadding and some felt and a couple of bits that I could probably use for something. So I'll take all of them and put them aside. Just don't want that showing. And this is my big mixing bag. It's very dusty of everything. And I've mixed it all, so I don't necessarily want one project to have all its pieces together. And I will know what those are, even if nobody else does. So, let's see how this would look if I manage to bring it together. Bits are going to keep escaping for a while yet. And then the idea would be to sew this edge and then just kind of flatten it out and then quilt it, and quilt it quite densely to kind of squash everything and try and get all that air out of the pocket. So there are big bits. Do I mind that? Not on this side. It's not ideal where they're face down, like wrong side to the edge, like this bit here. That one's not terrible, but that's wrong side. So if I'm going to have a large piece, ideally I would have it right side out. So those larger bits, looking at this, I do like kind of that real scrappy section. So I think I will pull up the large bits between those two sizes. So I think that size, what's that, 1 inch is okay, but anything bigger than that, maybe 1.5 inches, I'm going to try and just pull out, snip. I've got the scissors, and away we go. What does the other side look like? Pretty cool. Oh look, there's a discarded stirred desert pea. Ah, I'll pull that apart and put that back in. So a little bit of snipping, and then I'll probably fill the pocket and then arrange until I'm happy with more or less how it sits. I might leave a small gap in the pocket. Maybe I'll leave a little gap at either end so I can have a bit of space to arrange. Okay, so I've gone through and cut up most of the pieces. I think I could keep doing this forever. And I think Stitch with Ridge, she kind of laid them all out and used a rotary cutter. I can definitely see the advantages of that now. But I'm pretty happy still. So I'm going to just go through and close down most of that pocket, so I can just have a final arrange. I will say that if you have something that kind of is outside the majority of your mix, I've been finding yellow pieces because I used a little bit of yellow in a project. They really do stand out. So if you have a large bit of something that doesn't kind of sit in with the rest of your theme, you probably do want to get that down quite small, or not, if you prefer. Kind of mix it up if you want. Obviously there's no rules, but it does stand out just bear that in mind. So, very cathartic, cutting up the fabrics. Chop for every time the fabric didn't do what you asked it. Chop for every time you had to do a seam rip. So just kind of spreading it out. I would like it kind of even. And the perfectionist in me definitely thinks, oh look, there's another Sturt Des beat. Definitely thinks I could do some more. And I may just pull some pieces out if I sew it up and then can't or don't want to deal with them. So much tape. Honestly, I feel like I've been through this bag 3 times and I keep finding big chunks or big strips. It's kind of weird. They hide in the middle and then when you arrange it, you see them. Double this again. But I have managed to use the whole jar. So that's cool. I only have probably a million more jars worth. But I do have more tulle, so if I can think of something else I'd like to have like a placemat for, I can definitely make some more of these. I am trying to just keep it mostly to cotton, taking out jeans and felt where those have snuck in. Looks pretty good, so I'm going to just come away from the edge, sew this edge together and then do my final arranging before quilting. Here is my very messy 3 sides and 3/4 sewn pocket, and I'm not worried too much about the edge because I will do a kind of finished edge in some way, shape or form. So I'm just going to massage this until it's flat and then I'll probably tape it and start quilting. And as I said, quilting it quite dense because you want to kind of trap all of those crumbs. When I said I used the whole jar, I forgot about the bits that I didn't put in. Let's just say most of a jar. I'm pretty happy with most of that. It's a little bit lumpy down in this corner. I probably should fix up the hole at this end. Oh look, there's a piece. close the hole. I think my problem is I'm going to put it on the machine to close the hole and everything's going to shift. Can I pin it? Do you think I could pin it? I think I might get the extension, the quilt table-y thing, put that on, and then I'm just going to start quilting. I'm glad I didn't spend hours arranging this, because as soon as I put it on the machine, everything just went everywhere. So we're going to just do the best I can, and I forgot to put the quilting foot on. So I think I'll just try to flatten it as I go. I'm going to keep the stitches masking tape width apart at this point and just sew my way back. I will get hopefully all of the quilting done, and then I'll come back to you with the next stage, which is going to be adding some sort of edging. So I've just finished the quilting, and it's kind of weird in it's kind of stiff but then kind of flexible, and that's to do with obviously it's thicker in some parts than others, and I do have some gaps in it which you can only really see if you hold it up to the light. So I'm going, so I kept the strips kind of that masking tape inch-ish width apart. And for now, I think I will leave it at that. I am tempted to come in and just put one through the center of those, just to kind of tighten it down further, and in case that the tulle splits, because it's not particularly strong. So I've ended up with, what's this? About 10 inches by 23, 24 inches, and I did use most of that gel. Like, there does look like there's quite a lot left, but that would compress down quite a bit, and these weren't suitable, so I potentially could have got a little bit more in because of those gaps, and the edges are not that full, but I'm happy with how it is. I'm hard pressed to choose a favourite side. This one has quite a large chunk of dark blue and some tape, whereas this one is probably more even. I don't necessarily need a favourite side, so what I'm going to be doing with this is I'm going to slot it underneath my sewing machine to help me kind of shimmy it backwards and forwards, and I will measure the size up for that. It's pretty much 10 inches by maybe 15-ish piece I would like. And then I will look at, I'll probably get some scrap and I'll do a tape. I probably I'm going to do a double over tape, I'm guessing. I'll probably sew it down where I want it and then trim, and then fold over and sew it back down again on the other side. the way I have done this, it isn't square. The tulle quite stretchy. I think if you used a stabilizer or a base, that wouldn't happen quite so much. But with the make it and then trim it, that doesn't really matter to me. So I'll go ahead, measure up what I'm going to do, and I will find some scraps to make enough tape. So I made this tape from some scrappy bits, but it didn't have quite enough, so there's a splash of red in the middle. And what I have done, because I'm pretty close to the edge and I couldn't really get a line to stay on the piece, I've just got a piece of masking tape. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sew a single edge and then I'll fold over twice. So if I'm pretty sure if I sew this way along the seam allowance, that'll give me that fold over bias. So I'll just check. I don't think I'm going to hit any corners. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to sew that into place. And I'm just using the masking tape as that guide to kind of make a straight-ish line. Here comes the moment of truth. I did just run a line of stitches just outside where my bias ends, because if I trim this up, I'll actually try and use this piece for something else, and I didn't want it all to kind of just fall out of where I've made the cut. So I'm going to trim up the excess, there's quite a bit around, and then fold this twice. Well, I guess 3 times, once in on itself and then over the edge. Very tempted to try that one again because it's very much on the curve, and I do think there's enough fabric to be a little bit straighter. So there's a job I wasn't expecting. That looks a bit better. So I'll finish trimming the sides. Now, I haven't really thought about how the corners are going to work in this method. And I sewed this down rather than out, so I will unpick that as well. Okay. So with the sides, I'm going to fold first under and then just coming around to the back, and I'm going to hopefully just sew that down with the machine. So with the corner, let's have a look. If I roll this edge, the advantage of this method over the double is that it uses quite a lot less fabric to get like a quite wide edge on the back for easy stitching. So I think I'll just tuck one edge under another. This project is not a perfection project, so if these corners are different lengths, that really makes absolutely no difference. If I just stitch that down, that's fine. I'm happy enough with that. So that looks pretty good. On the reverse, it looks quite a lot thinner, which is fine. So I will sew that down. So you can see the line on the back. It's almost a bit of an echo running just that little bit away from the binding, and then on the back, probably need a little bit of corner finishing. There we have it then. Almost a full jar of scraps turned into a little, I guess, placemat for my sewing machine. It's still very dusty, still giving off lots of fabric dust, and there's a couple of spots where you can see through, but for the job it's going to do, not a problem. If you were using this for something hot, I'm not sure I'd actually recommend that, to be honest. You may want to fill those a bit tighter. That version of bias almost works, just the corners need a little bit of mental resolution. But there's the fringe project. If you have scraps and you haven't started saving them, maybe now's your time. Oh, and you'd need some tulle, but really easy project. Like a really good project, just come back to the sewing machine too. Like when you've been away and just need something to work on with no requirement for pretty much anything, just put things together and sew. I hope you've enjoyed this project. I'm gonna go ahead and make something else. Well, another placemat with the other piece. Not quite sure what's in it, needs a placemat, but I will find something, and I'll see you in the next video. I think I can retire my old sewing machine mat. Yeah, give that a clean up. This is just a thick piece of felt. But this dust, very much, if, you know, quilting with small scraps is called crumb quilting. I think quilting with trimmings should be called dust quilting, because there's a lot of dust. It's pretty much the fit I wanted. I didn't have much extra width. A little bit of a handle to be able to move it around. Ta-da! Awesome.